Welcome to another episode of African Mindset series. Today I'm going to tell you a little story. It's the story of an extremely wealthy princess whose lover or partner, who is far less materially endowed than her, constantly beats her, rapes and abuses her, and in the process destroys her self-confidence. He also lies about her to others, making everyone, including the princess, believe that the vast wealth belongs to him and not to her, and that he is her savior, and that without him, she's nothing. The princess has been so maltreated and victimized that she can't even remember when this abusive relationship, which was imposed on her, began. The abusive partner, on the other hand, is not just content with beating her up. He uses every opportunity to humiliate and dehumanize her. For him, it is as though she's devoid of intelligence. And whilst he's maltreating her and treating her like an object, yep, worse than an animal, he also shamelessly robs her of her inheritance, her gold, her diamond, her riches, her immense wealth that her royal lineage bequeathed on her, bestowed on her. I mean, her wealth is so immense that it cannot be quantified. And up till today, some more wealth is being discovered and added. So he made her believe over time that taking care of those of the wealth is in her interest, and that she doesn't possess the intellectual capacity to manage those herself. Can you believe that? So initially it was daylight robbery. He used to beat her and just steal the wealth and accumulate it for himself. But obviously over the years, it's now become more apparent. So new tactics and new ways of manipulation have emerged, whereby he's managed to convince her that taking care of the wealth is in her interest, and she doesn't possess the intellectual capacity to manage the wealth herself. Over time, he clearly managed to manipulate and crush her so much that she started doubting herself and her own intellectual capacity. She believed in the lies he told because he repeated them so often that it became truth. She was also so used to being abused and oppressed for so long that she forgot her royal heritage, her past glory, her own identity. She forgot that over time. So she became ashamed of herself and hated herself, developing such a strong sense of inferiority complex that she even started admiring her abusive husband. She even tried to be like him, adopting his manners and his way of life. And he was happy to play the role of the judge and executioner. Yes, her tyrant had somehow become her role model. This is what some people refer to as Stockholm syndrome, where the victim start developing some, some admiration and almost some sympathies for her abuser. So this went on and on and on until other neighbors who had been looking at the situation for a while and had always admired the beautiful princess and coveted her immense wealth as well, started courting her. Her new suitors told her she was beautiful and still very attractive despite all the abuse. They wined and dined her and showed her and treated her with more respect than her current abusive partner. She lent her ear to their advances and even entertained them. She knew full well and still knows full well that they are all after her wealth, But she preferred those new suitors as they treated her with a little bit more respect and were less condescending. And they were also prepared to give her something in exchange for some of her wealth. Then suddenly, her abusive husband, realizing that she now had other suitors, became jealous and irate, threatening her and telling her the other suitors will also abuse her and will be worse than he was, telling the world that she's been super naive by entering into those new partnerships. Basically, reducing her to somebody who was a pawn in her suitor's hand rather than somebody who had made the decision to actually enter into those new partnerships. The only issue is that the wealthy princess, having gained confidence, no longer wants to listen wholeheartedly to this abusive husband. She no longer wants to be told how to live her life, what to eat, how to use her own wealth, how to breathe. And she no longer wants to play or dance to his tune. The abusive husband, instead of changing tack to win her over in his arrogance, instead continues to threaten her and use coercive tactics and even threatens to cut her off. Can you believe that? Cut her off. This is where the plot thickens, obviously, because the beautiful and wealthy princess has now started to gain consciousness of her self-worth. She's now started to understand the years and centuries of abuse she was subjected to, and has realized it is the abusive partner who actually needs her, despite his narrative, despite the lies, the twisted lies told about her. She's realized that he has always needed her and still needs her today to maintain his lavish lifestyle. So have you guessed who I'm talking about? It's the relationship between Africa and the West. The new suitors are, of course, other partners in the world like China, Russia, Turkey, etc. Yes, we know, all these new relationships come with their own problems, but certainly it is for Africa to decide who they want to trade with and the terms of those agreements. It is not for Europe or the West to tell Africa how to dispense of her own wealth, what treaty to sign, who they should acquire military equipment from, etc., etc. The abuse is even more intense in Francophone countries, but it's everywhere in Africa. We live in a system of white supremacy. And for those who do not understand, let me be very clear. We are not going to emancipate ourselves as Africans by trying to fit into a white supremacy system. We are going to emancipate ourselves by disrupting the system and running our own parallel system, doing our own thing that benefits us, that is in our interest. And I'm pleased to see all these various initiatives and the fact that so many of our brothers and sisters, especially the youth, are gradually gaining that consciousness. The consciousness of an emancipated Africa, the consciousness of what the biggest threat to us is. Rather than fighting among each other, you go to South Africa, for example, the economic wealth is in the hands of the minority white population. And that's the case across the world. I mentioned South Africa, but it's the case everywhere else. I mentioned South Africa because I was listening to another video where they were talking about the end of apartheid. But really, the end of apartheid did not remove or did not give back economic power to the black majority population. It was just a token watershed in a way. There was a level of political independence, but the structures have been set up in such a way that the whole of Africa is still under the shackles of this white supremacist neo-colonial and imperialist system, which is why the wealth of Africa is still used to support Western economies to the detriment of the children of Africa, the black population. And this is worldwide. It's a fight for survival. And we need to wake up as Africans. We need to all continue what we are doing in our struggle for emancipation. But as I said, the way forward is to disrupt the system, not accommodate it, not try to fit into it, because the system was not built for us. Thank you.